How you going? This week I decided to build another robot. I started just by looking at the plastic bits box I have in my drawer and decided that this dome thing would be a good starting point. I added a back to that just out of cardboard. And glued that on. This is the top of a herbs container, I think, so decided that would be a good back, and using these little bits off deodorant cans for the eyes and lids for the feet. So chop them out and add some tubes for the legs. This was just a project that I kind of made up as I went along, didn't really have a plan in mind when I started. So adding some knees to the legs with some beads and some wire just to hold the legs together. I decided that the arms would be old USB cables and that this robot would be to go along with the surveillance robot that I'll link to, and also my salvage bot. It's the same universe, I decided. So these arms, the USB cables, they would sneak around and plug into unsecured computers wherever they could, and that was how they'd get their surveillance. So I'm just bending some wire here to peg them in so that they hold in place. Just start assembling by gluing the legs down to the base. I decided it might look cool to, there was some electronics inside him, so I chopped the lids off these things and jammed some wires in there. Cool, now the assembly, put it all together. There's some little tubes for legs, and I think it's looking kind of cool but needs some detail now. So putting some wires in the eyes just so that they'll hold in place, and just using some zip ties here to give a bit more detail and to cover up the edges of that. And yeah, needed to cover the wires at the back, so this is just a random lid off something. Chop some bits out of that so it fits. And then that just slots in there. And then to cover all the little gaps, I just put some tissue paper and soaked it in super glue, and then just poked it in, and that forms a nice little hard, sort of almost fiberglassy kind of finish there. So it's a good way to fill gaps where you need to. Now I decided that the tops of the legs need a little bit more detail, and this is just a random pipe that I had in my bits, so that gives a bit more detail there. And this is, yeah, again another dropper. Just chop the bits off that and chuck that on top of the leg, and it just a bit more detail and a bit more interesting. Same with this, more zip ties. So now I need to put the eyes in, drill some little holes, make them a little bigger, and put the eyes in and then glue them in place. And now just sticking on some little bits for some more detail on the back. And bending an aerial for the top because he needs to communicate all his information back to base. And some more little detail. So take him outside to give it a spray paint, and start with black and then some grey, and then I'll finish up with some white over the top just so I get a nice highlight. And then take it inside for painting, and I always get a bit stuck when I start on the painting, so I just started with the same blue of the other robots and worked from there. And I started by painting the dome black, but decided I didn't quite like the look of that. Add some red in here for some more colour. And I'm putting some wash over everything to give it a bit more detail, and then tried to put some highlight on the legs there. Painting silver over the top of the black for these rivety things. And then some silver over the top of the feet to give it that metallic look. And I added some red to just give a bit more colour for the arms. So I didn't really like the black of the dome, so I decided to paint it silver, and after lots of back and forth on here and a few coats, I didn't like that either, so I stippled the silver, and I kind of liked the finished result for that. Unfortunately, I don't have footage of the stippling, it was just with a big brush. Put a bit more detail on the back, and now putting some wash over the silver. Put a whole lot on there, and then just rub it off with a tissue, just add some more depth to the painting. And then paint the base black, and we're done. It's an interesting background, I'm not quite sure on that, but some detail on the back there. And there he is. Thanks for watching my video. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comments.